Pokrovsk situation. You know, the situation is complicated. The enemy was on November 5th, and he continues. But on November 5th, there were assault operations with the involvement of equipment. He lost equipment, but the #1 goal for the enemy is to occupy Pokrovsk as soon as possible. This goal remains. Are there any real chances now that the United States will agree to give us Tomahawk missiles? How do you assess the likelihood of a positive decision? Well, as I said, we are working on this issue with our partners. First of all, with the United States of America. First of all, with the White House, with the President. We also work separately with manufacturers. We said that this is a separate pressure on Russia. This decision is important to us. President Trump didn't say no. It was absolutely true. But various institutions gave us positive signals about this decision. Of course, that ultimately depends on the President of the United States of America. We have talked to manufacturers, and they will be happy to do so if there is a positive signal from President Trump. This is how they view Ukraine and Russia. You know, they will be happy to give us or sell us the relevant systems. We talked between us not only about Tomahawks and things that, let's not say many different names, but which also work well for long-range targets. That is, we are interested in a set of different ones, if I may use the word, different services. And for us, this is a really deterrent package for the continuation of Russian aggression. We know about the number of Russian attacks. We understand that the current volume of their attacks is somewhere in the middle, 300 Shahed drones, but they can send 500 or more. We understand that they are gathering, preparing for attacks. We realize that the winter will be difficult. President Trump, European leaders have already imposed sanctions. The EU has imposed the 19th package of sanctions. And this is very good, because they are preparing, in my opinion, a very powerful 20th package, and we will see how the White House's sanctions will work. And I think the impact on the Russian economy will be very serious. So I think that things like Tomahawks and other long-range weapons, Storm Shadow, Scalp, and other weapons, including those from the United States, plus sanctions imposed by the White House, etc. All of this can put pressure on Putin and make him want to talk and communicate. But I don't know what the winter will be like. Viktor Orban is meeting with Trump tonight. Even before the meeting, he said that a Putin-Trump meeting was possible in the coming days. My question to you here is, do you have a direct view of an opportunity for diplomacy in the near future, given the situation on the ground and the intelligence data? In general, what do you expect from the meeting? Do you really expect Trump to put pressure on Orban and explain to Orban why he should not block us in the EU? If I may, I'll answer first. As for the meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Orban, I can only imagine the issues related to Ukraine that will be discussed. But we really don't know the bilateral relations of these countries. First of all, Orban wants to bring Trump back to Hungary to meet with Putin. You know how we feel about this. I won't repeat myself if there is a meeting, wherever it is, that definitely brings about a ceasefire and an end to the war. Ukraine will support any format. I have always talked about this. If the meetings are needed for Mr. Orban's electoral salute, and without results, we cannot support this. Of course, meetings about us and without us are therefore fruitless. Because without us, in my opinion, but again, if there is a result, we accept any format, except for Russia and Belarus, because they are allies in this war against us. I am also confident that the Hungarian Prime Minister will raise energy issues so everyone understands the consequences of the White House's sanctions, and especially President Trump's sanctions on energy companies, Lukoil and Rosneft. There are a lot of companies. It is clear that the sanctions are very strong. Orban will look for opportunities to get special treatment for them. Of course, we will not support special treatment for Orban. We'll see what happens, what the United States decides. Let's put it this way. I think these are the two main things. He will tell him that Putin wants to end the war, because the Prime Minister's rhetoric is no different from Russia's. He will say that Ukraine is losing the war because his rhetoric is no different from Russia's. Well, it's a kind of, I would say, live mail from Russia to the United States of America. Do you have such expectations, hopes that the United States may tighten sanctions against Russia? Nice to meet you, first of all. The last communication with the president was, I think, at a meeting in Washington. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly, because the days are passing. We talked, we discussed a lot of different things. Then there were also communications at different levels, with different people, with the participation of Rustem Umarov. Andriy Yermak also spoke. We communicate with Americans at various levels almost every day. But if we are talking about sanctions, we are already thanking the president for this sanctions package. Let's see how it works. I think the package is very powerful. I think we will see some signals from the Russians, probably through the Hungarian Prime Minister. I think that Russia will try to pretend that the sanctions have no effect. But in fact, this is the biggest and most important sign of effectiveness. If they say it doesn't work, it definitely does. And if we take the issue of Lukoil and their companies and production facilities, you know that there are several Lukoil production sites in Europe, in some European countries, which are actually very much pro-Ukrainian countries, but nevertheless, Lukoil has production there. They started appearing there in the 1990s, and now they will have to close these enterprises because of the sanctions. In any case, banking operations will cease, and we understand the weight of these sanctions. They will strike harder. And these are only the first steps, the first consequences. They will create difficulties for the Russians. I think Russia, excuse me, please. I think Russia, with this story about Pokrovsk, you know what it will do as constantly as possible? It is very afraid of strong decisions being made by the United States if there is no success on the battlefield. That's why it's very important for Russia to do everything it can to actually capture Pokrovsk in any format and show success on the battlefield. Do we believe that Trump can influence the Hungarian Prime Minister to stop blocking Ukraine's European integration? Should we expect that Trump will be able to influence Orban to stop Hungary from buying Russian oil? Thank you. You are asking two questions that Orban came with, mostly, so that they can somehow solve them so that their oil dependence on the Russian Federation does not suffer. I am sure that he will raise it simply as much as possible, but he must also understand our attitude to this. We cannot allow the Russians to make money on this, on energy, and even where our hands are tied because of certain contracts, obligations, etc., we will still find a way to make sure that there is no Russian oil in Europe. It is very good that the United States is interested in this. But as a country under Russian aggression, we are definitely interested in this. And Orban, who is constantly talking about issues with various players who are important to influence us. In my opinion, he should have built his election campaign not on hatred of Ukraine, but on friendship, on the fact that, look, I have a problem regarding the energy sector. Let's help me solve it. And he thinks not about people, not about solving this problem, but about himself. And he thinks that he will do it using the hate for Ukraine. He won't. Why? Because we won't. We will not allow the Russians to sell oil there. It's a matter of time, of our stand. Some things we simply cannot do today, because there are many different dependencies in this puzzle. But we will still make a picture from this puzzle. He clearly understands this, and no one can influence us. Just no one, and that's why he blocks. He thinks that he will block us in Europe, but no one will stop Ukraine's development.